we're going to talk Bryce Young versus CJ Stroud. I think that Todd McShay it was cited. I saw this on Twitter. It was like Todd McShay apparently was reporting that Bryce Young is going to weigh or measure. I almost said weigh in. You don't weigh in your height. Is going to measure it at shorter than people thought. Let me ask you this, Josh, before we sort of get into that comparison. Should we care about Bryce Young's height? And I understand that it's usually more like anomaly. But most of the time it is tall. The NFL likes tall quarterbacks. The NFL does not like short quarterbacks. Russell Wilson kind of changed that, but then and Baker Mayfield, went first overall, and Drew Brees obviously was the founder, or not, he's the forefather of all this. But how much does Bryce Young's height concern you when you analyze him as a prospect?
I'm less concerned about his height as I am his weight. And a lot of people think he's going to be closer to 200 pounds, but it's always funny how we talk about the weights in February and then they don't play at those weights in the fall. That's always a talking point. So, you want him to be closer to that 200-pound weight because we've seen some smaller quarterbacks in recent years, whether it was Kyler Murray, whether it was Jalen Hurts. Those guys have a little bit of a thicker, lower body build, which allows them to sustain contact, drive their legs, under contact, all that kind of stuff. Bryce Young doesn't really have that extra power to him. You worry about his durability a little bit. But, yeah, I think he's going to come in a little bit on the shorter side. And when you look at that, you kind of have to project what kind of an offense that best fits into, because you don't want to make him this traditional pocket passer, allow him to sit back there. Ideally you would, but most teams don't have the offensive line to do that. So in an ideal world, you see him landing in this offensive scheme where you can roll him out of the pocket a little bit, allow him to make plays off platform, all of that kind of stuff, allow him to make his, just natural playmaking ability outside of the pocket. I think that's kind of the ideal situation for him. But I'm more worried about the weight than I am the height at this point.
Interesting. I mean, that's a very viable concern because, you talk about, you mentioned Jalen Hurts. I mean, I always reference this quote that I can't remember who it was, a scout or GM or what it was, to Ryan Wilson, said that he was the best running back in the Big 12 coming into the draft. And it wasn't an insult. It was like, this dude he's going to run you over. And he got hurt, but he plows through people. Russell Wilson, smaller, but a very thick frame. Russ is always, and actually got real thick last year. No judgment, obviously. I would never judge anybody for backing on LVs during the football season. But Russ avoids contact, but also if he has to take contact, he is built differently. Bryce Young, by the way, the McShay quote was, "If I'm a GM, I'm scared to death of drafting him. His real height is 5'10" and a half, according to McShay. Brady Quinn has said, and I don't want to over exaggerate what he pointed out, but Brady, I think and we're saying this as prospects, right? When I say this, not as what we know now, I think he basically had him behind only Joe Burrow as a prospect in terms of just a pure passer. He said, when I'm feeling down, I go watch Bryce Young tape. So this is fascinating about this draft too. Are you willing to take a chance on a guy when we've seen repeatedly, smaller quarterbacks not necessarily work out at the next level? What do you think about him versus CJ Stroud when especially when you start talking about that top pick? And we'll get to, Levis and Richardson after that as well.
Yeah. What makes Young so special is, his leadership, his ability to make plays off platform, like I said, but he's really just an instinctual passer. He's got a great feel for the game. You see a lot of people compare him to a Steph Curry. And while that's obviously a cross-sport comparison, you kind of understand it a little bit because he does have this natural feel for the game. He plays within the rhythm of the game. He's capable of creating his own opportunities, all that kind of stuff. CJ Stroud,
by the way, so just sorry to interrupt you. I mean, I'm terrible at interrupting, obviously, but the throw that we're seeing on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, this is a freaking dime. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it does look to me. This is like the Steph Curry style throw, where it's sort of you boot him out a little bit on the play action, and then you just put it deep, and it just flies out of his hand.
Exactly, and CJ Stroud has a little bit more of that prototypical size we talked about off the jump, but he doesn't want to be this off-platform, outside of the pocket type playmaker. He prefers to work in the pocket. And he's been very good at that, surgical down the field, attacking at all three levels of the field. But in the NFL today, the quarterbacks that are having success are the ones that are willing to use their legs, the ones that are willing to get outside of the pocket, can extend plays, find guys late in the play. And CJ Stroud didn't show that a whole lot during his collegiate career. The college football playoff was an obvious exception against a very good Georgia defense. But teams are going to want to dig in this week in Indianapolis and try to figure out if that's who he wants to be. Does he want to be more of a pocket passer, somebody that sits back in the pocket and, is just delivering with accuracy to all three levels of the field? Or is he open to being that player that works outside of structure? I think that's what teams are going to try to get some insight into.
Josh froze up a little bit there. I would also point out that waits for that to come back, that the quote from Todd McShay was via Albert Breer of SI.com. Also quoted Daniel Jeremiah, who said if Bryce Young was 6'3", 220, I would be talking about him like I talked about Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. And then McShay's full quote was, I love Bryce Young. I really do. I know he's 195 pounds. A really good friend of mine who's a scout had him at 5'10" and a half. I mean, it's not very big. It's not very big. I met with him. I talked to him. He's special. He's different. He has the poise. I absolutely love Bryce Young. I would bet on him. In his next breath, McShay concedes, if I'm a GM, I'm scared to death of drafting him. So, I mean, that's kind of a bit like, I mean, it's a little bit juxtapositional or paradoxical or some other word like that. The Breer talk, because he does it is the MMQB column, and he basically is like talking to Jeremiah and McShay about these prospects and trying to figure out, what they bring to the table. I mean, this is probably, I don't even know if this is like a bias thing for me, but I just cannot ever, like, I just have a thing against Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't know if it's because I got, dragged by Shelly Meyer on Twitter one time and I just don't like Ohio State, or if it's like actually a thing where, I think sometimes you see coming out of that system, you just don't see it translate to the NFL very often at all. Justin Fields, totally different animal, totally different beast. Like, I don't want to get into the whole Justin Fields thing because that didn't work out very well last week. People got mad about it. But his production was largely on the ground last year, and he broke out by running the football. And the Bears catered to his skill set, and that's great. That's what you want in an offense. You want Luke Getsy, the OC, to be, doing stuff that incorporates the best possible skill set, for Justin Fields type. But at the same time, it's not like Fields, just lit things up in the passing game. And I will concede that his offensive line was doo-doo, and his receivers not exactly great, particularly when Darnell Mooney went down. So it's certainly a fair, I'm sorry, I was sort of going on a diatribe about, actually I was really filibustering about Ohio State quarterbacks. So I waited for you to come back, because quite frankly, if you were like, tell me what you like about Will Levis, I wouldn't be ready to do that right now. And that's, that's on me, but you know what it is with the draft. Like you draft gurus, like Ryan Wilson better know everything about Will Levis right now. I got a little wiggle room. Any other thoughts you want to add on Stroud or Young before we move on to the other guys?
No, I think that was pretty much it. And of course, the electricity just went out. That's the Midwest is going through some heavy wind right now. So I'm sure all the journalists descending upon Indianapolis this week are going to be met with some very harsh winds in what is already a very windy town. But I mean, we've pretty much got all of it across.
Stroud's a little bit Indy right now. Oh my goodness! Everybody stay safe.
Oh. So I don't know how you follow that up.
Are you going to be in Indy?
Yeah, I'm gonna go up for a day. See some of the edge rushers and talk to some people, stuff like that. But
I don't have any plans to go. I should go. I miss that combine. Although I don't like that they changed the times of the workouts. Not that I'm a morning person. It. I'm not a morning person. I think everybody is fully aware of that. But I don't like because now. But are the quarterbacks still going to be throwing in primetime this year? Or do they move it down to like 3:00? I thought I saw the schedule. It looks like a little different.
I think because it's on a Saturday, it kind of falls into the middle of the afternoon. But this is the first year that, media, or one of the first years, I can't remember if they did it last year or not, but one of the first years that media is allowed inside the stadium to watch the on-field drills. So that's also going to be a little bit of a different experience.
They used to do a thing where they would come around and like pick like 15 people and let them go. Right. I think I got picked one year. Felt very special. I think I actually may have turned it down and like, no, I don't feel like going. I have to sit here and do this interview. But because it used to be, and I don't want to complain about the combine and how they change because it's the combine. It is what it is. Like it's a literal like meat market where a bunch of dudes put on their underwear and and compete in like drills that ultimately don't matter for like what they're going to do later in life. But it just used to be where it was in the stadium and everybody was sort of in like the consent. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe I'm just an old jaded, like old.
I mean, it serves its purpose. Like it's a central location. Everybody talks about
I
the
love
medical.
Indy personally. I think Indy's amazing.
I do too. It's a great city. Got some good breweries, which I'm sure you explored when you were in Indianapolis. But
How dare you?
yeah, it's a really good central site.
My favorite part about Indianapolis, my favorite place in Indianapolis is, and like you can only go once per trip, really, because it's Nikki. Have you ever been to Nikki Blaine's? It's the underground cigar bar. Oh my god, it's so.
Oh no, I haven't.
It's like this, like dark red leather, and Steely Dan's playing, and everyone's just chiefing cigars and drinking like bourbon and scotch, and you had just the time of your life. You can't talk the next day, and you have to throw away whatever coat or sweater you were wearing because it just like you can't put it back in your suitcase because you're just going to. It just reeks of cigars. I won't reveal the name of the person, but one time we went to Nikki Blaine's, and I'm not going to tell this story on the podcast. I was scared. I'll get in trouble if I tell that one. I'll get somebody in trouble, maybe not me.